Welcome back. Welcome for the first time. This is the first episode of the Kyle Suchsland show, the Birdie Bogey show, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. I am going to be sharing my thoughts, opinions on a variety of subjects, including golf and sports and movies I like, what's going on in my life. We're going to start it once a week, and we're going to go from there. I'm a massive fan of podcast, and hope to learn from some of the greats in the industry and go from there. So, my name is Kyle Suchsland. That's who I am. You are obviously welcome to the channel. However you got here, love that you did. I started this brand a couple months ago. I've been taking it seriously for about a week. It's been a side project. It's been something to keep my mind occupied on nights and weekends. And really, it started off a reason just to play free golf, to be fully honest. It was a reason I wanted something to do that I loved. Growing up, something that I was always told, that I remember everyone telling you, is that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I always liked what I did. Always liked it. I would say bordering on love, right? I loved the people I worked with. I loved some of the opportunities that. But the work, I wouldn't say love, right? It's always, I was looking for something deeper. Now, I was 30, about to be 34 this year. So, as starting off in about 10 years of my career, right? You come out of college and you don't really know what you want to do. You kind of get a job where you get a job, and it goes from there, right? I was lucky enough to get a fantastic job out of college, and a decade later, you kind of look up and you kind of say, what's going on? So, a couple 6 months ago, I think I kind of had that, call it a midlife crisis, where it was like, well, is this what I want to do is for the next 20 years? And if it is, that's totally fine, right? There's people that do what they want to do for the next 20 years. But it wasn't what I wanted to do for 20 years. It wasn't, when I was retiring, I hope this would be a good start, but I hope that there was something else that I felt, and maybe call it gut, you want to call it dumbness, you want to call it ego-ness, from the millennial generation that's been told that they can always do anything. Call it what you want. But I'm gonna give it a go. So this is me taking it seriously. So welcome to the show. There's a couple things we're gonna go through. Stick around. I'll talk probably more about getting laid off at the end. If you're interested in kind of what it's like to be laid off from a 10-year position, I'm going to go through kind of that and what it was like to kind of get pulled into the HR director and kind of what was going through my head at that time, right? Hopefully some other people can resonate with them. But first we're going to start with numero uno importante, the Chicago Bears recap, and I'm so excited. That was a hell of a football game, boys. I know, Caleb, you're probably watching this, number one fan. I'm your number one fan, so I would expect the same. That was a hell of a game. I have been fortunate enough to be in a position with the Bears for my family. I would say, born into the Bears. My dad has been going to games with my grandpa and his grandpa, and his uncles, and my uncles, his brothers, before I was born, religiously, right? So I was born into, there was no option for me not to be a Bears fan. Growing up, that was as important as religion, right? Growing up in Chicago, it was, you planned church around when the Bears game was for that day. We could go to the 11:30 mass if they played at 3:30. If not, we were either sometimes missing mass, or we were going to whatever one, dependent on the Bears. And from that, my dad's also been a season ticket holder. And from that, so my dad's also been a season ticket holder since before I was born. My great uncle, grandfather, you could say, I guess, great grandfather was the original season ticket holder. And he was an executive at a local, not a local, but a major candy company in downtown Chicago. And from that, he became good friends with a Bears quarterback named Sid Luckman till Caleb was the best quarterback to be ever, one of the better quarterbacks to ever have a Bears uniform on. And through their friendship, he got tickets. So years down the line, and my uncle, great uncle, would go to games religiously, right? He would go to every single one, and started bringing my dad. So then my dad started going. He started bringing with my grandpa. And they started going religiously. I would invite maybe once a year, twice a year. And then, this is early 2000s. He unfortunately passed away. And then the tickets went to my father. And through that, the amount of games I started going to with my dad increased probably to about 3 or 4 a year, maybe 2010-ish range, right? So, my dad would take my brothers, his things every couple of years, but definitely I would always go to opening day, and I would get to pick 1 or 2 more after that. It was my favorite thing to do with my dad. I know a lot of people probably have memories of things to do with your dad, and like where you maybe feel like time maybe slows down a little bit. I would say maybe stops. Where you can kind of live in a moment to get gay about it. But where everyone probably is thinking about something right now where there's a place where time doesn't feel real, where no matter how old you are, no matter how what's going on in your life, it's a place that feels like that. And if you don't have a place like that, I'd highly suggest finding one out, because maybe that is something that you deep down that you are missing, because that feeling of walking into Soldier Field and walking down to our seats, the nostalgic, maybe you could call it, maybe you want to call it, that feeling you get in your belly is one that I would never replace, and I think one that's always started with my father and mother and brother and all family that we've been lucky enough to go to Bears games with. And that's truly one of a special place for me. Section 107, we've been there since before I could even know. I'm looking at a wall right now full of tickets from when they used to do cool fan art, which is crazy that they don't. They stopped that. It was like, okay, so let's take a quick side detour here. They used to do such cool fan art for tickets, and every year, even if it was just pictures, it was cool pictures of the players, and it's not the Bears' fault, but it's like this ever-going digital world that we're in now, where tickets used to be this tangible thing that you could hold on to, that you couldn't lose. You had to turn around to get them. I remember being halfway in at Dunkin' Donuts and us having to turn around to get the tickets. Which sucks, but it also embeds them with this power that afterwards feels that, you could see it. Maybe I really like nostalgic right in my brain. But that, we really don't have it anymore, right? With the tickets now, they're just on your phone, right? I'm not gonna like, oh, look at all the tickets I got. Maybe I'm millennialness of me, but like, I don't think that's as cool as having like all these tickets, and I have these tickets on my wall here. Comment if you want to see them. I'll post some pictures. But have been able to go to so many games through years and years and years of the Bears' history. And then unfortunately my father passed away. And my brother and I kind of through that, we made sure to keep the tickets because we knew how important that was to, one, us, and then two, how important it would be is to our father. To those games, we feel a strange connection to the family at that one, especially the Packers games. So that was 5 years ago now, and we've had him since. And going to games is I would say has been the most fun for the last 5 years up until kind of the last couple of years. We always had fun going to the games. Obviously, we're gonna have fun tailgating. You're gonna make whatever you do fun, right? We're especially with people we're with, but the Bears have reinvented, I think, the word what it like to be for fun for me. There's one massive thing I want to talk about. I'm going to write it down so I don't forget. So no one... But the Bears have kind of reinvented what it's like for kind of these funds of these games, right? I never really thought I've been to 5 games this year, right? I went to opening day, which lost. Went to the Browns. No, I didn't go to the Browns. Oh, okay. Let me pick up the schedule on. Stand by. So this regular season, we went to... I went to the Vikings game, went to the Saints game, went to the Giants game, and went to the Packers, and then the Packers again. So, how many is that? Oh, shit. 1, 2... 3, 4, 5. Yeah. And then we sold a couple other ones. My brother took his father-in-law. So, went to 5 games this year. So, I hope that gives me some expertise on the subject, right? That increases my... Oh, I'm not going to remember. Pathos? No. Ethos? No. We're going to go with pathos. It's one of the two. I hope that increases my pace. No, that doesn't sound right. It's one of the two of those. We're going to go with pathos. I hope that increases my pathos. That to speak on the subject with some credibility. The games have been the most fun I have been to in, I think, my entire life this year. And we, being Chicago fans, have Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams to thank for that directly. The atmosphere used to be a little bit like a funeral from a person that you mildly like, but you liked seeing the people at the funeral more. So it was almost more like we're here for the funeral, but we're really here for the talking, because the dead person's they're dead. They're not gonna know we're there. So like the Bears, like that's it's their dead body on the field, right? So we're not there. They're not gonna know we're there. So you'd be there for the people, right? And it changed last year for sure, right? I would say that with Caleb, people were there to watch the development and really were there to took a more interest, and really people let them. I'm sure Bear fans or Bears players would say they let them have it, and I would say was one of them that was letting them have it. You're letting them booze right now because last year sucked. It was not fun. And it was not. I can't imagine it was very fun for the players also. And then something changed this year, and the only thing that I would say is culture, but I think that starts with one person, and I think that's Ben Johnson. That is, we have to thank as Chicagoans for what's happened this Chicago Bears football season. And if it ends after the Rams games, it ends after the Rams games. I don't think it's going to. But the culture that Ben Johnson has instilled is something that I have not seen as a Bears fan in my entire life. The idea of Ben Johnson rising every boat in the fucking harbor to a level I'm not sure they knew that they were able to lease is the definition of leadership. Making you achieve more than you thought possible is the definition of leadership. And would love to argue with anyone saying that Ben Johnson has not got the most out of every single player on that team this year. And you could tell he's pulling the most out of the organization as a whole. From the McCaskies donating Ubers in the city before, like for Uber Blacks. That's new. When are we a world-class organization to our city? The way that Ben Johnson has taken every single member of the organization down to the fans and said, no, we're going up here, right? I would say numero uno example of that was this game yesterday. And I've been to a fuck ton of games now that we've talked, right? And shit was bleak. Let me tell you, 21-3 at halftime, 21-6 maybe at halftime. Shit was bleak at halftime. And maybe that's me making videos, right? So you gotta try, putting your positive spin on them, even though I really did believe that they were gonna get off the mat because I've seen it. But it felt like the collective whole believed they were gonna get off the mat. That the collective whole was down 21-3, was gonna go grab a beer, and was gonna come sit down and get ready to watch some football. And that ability of an organization is something I haven't seen that we haven't seen before, right? We usually, I would say, I would love to see the stat if we ever come back. We've ever come back from something like that, but I would bet you a lot of money that's never been in a game like that. Just against who it was, especially, right? That raising of the collective consciousness, the collective level of the stadium is something that, I will not forget being at a Packers game, right? I think that feeling of going to the Packers games, it's very common. You're used to screaming what you're screaming. You're used to not liking who you're not liking. Feels good to not like people. I'm going to say, you guys are going to come at me? It feels good to have a rival. It's good. That's what sports are about. A versus B. They line up and we smash. That's football. It's good. You're friends afterwards. We're friends before. But during the game, we don't like each other. We're going to go at it. That's sports. That's what makes sports amazing also, right? That's what makes sports legendary. That's what makes some of the moments in your life. I mean, I'm never going to forget what Aaron Rodgers did to me in 2011. And I would hope Packers fans are going to have some similar feelings in this year and coming years. Because the Packers and Brett Favre ruined my childhood. He ruined my childhood. Brett Favre. Okay? Every single day, little Kyle would be like, oh, the Bears are going to win today. And Brett Favre would smoke them every single year. Right? So, sports, for some people, are so much more than that. So, the Bears being able to take that, and I'm thinking about my cousins, my niece, that are growing up with these Bears, and the joke of a franchise that we've become in the national media, and who of that is amazing to see how the tides turn. And you always think that they're going to, especially with the Cubs, that never did I think that I had World Series stuff. If you would ask me 15 years ago, I would have said these bunch of losers are never going to get it done either, right? So you always know that things can change. What I'm saying is they are changing. If you don't understand that yet, if you're not watching, if we haven't won this year, get on the train, because understand the ride is what makes it fun. The 2016 World Series was awesome. That Game 7 was awesome. But that year of baseball that was fun. They were so good that year. They were so fun in 2015 when they beat the Cardinals. Schwarber's ball off the top. Getting that was fun. That was fun. Having it up there, getting the ride to it is really the fun spot. And I know it's probably not really that smart of a take, right? But the destination, the journey is the destination to get, if you want to get some stupid TJ Maxx sign. Shout out TJ Maxx, so sponsors, if you guys would love TJ Maxx. But enjoy the journey. We play the Rams this week. If I have some time this week, I'm going to maybe do a little more of a deep dive later on this. Do a deep dive more in the pregame for the Rams if we do another podcast this week, or if we have a guest. Sorry. But the Rams game should be fun. I think we have a good chance versus the Rams. I think it's supposed to be cold, it's going to be bear weather. Hopefully, it's the colder the better at this rate. With the Rams coming in, indoor team, they like to kind of run those quick out routes to Puka and Devonta Adams, and I want to see Puka get his fucking popped when he tries to run one of those quick out routes by Jalen Johnson, and see if he keeps running those all day. And I think we can play some bear football. And I would love to see what happens in bear football versus them. So I take the Bears right now. It is Monday at 4:37, and I'm saying Bears 27, Bears 28, 21, Bears over the Rams. Book it. Cash your tickets right now. Thank you very much. But that's really all. So I think we can go a little bit more into the actual game. So it had a really fun time on this week, right? If we want to get, I think we did a little bit more introduction of the Bears as a whole. But overall, who mine is just that the experience. I think we had a great time. We went down with some brother and some my cousin and his wife, and we had a great time. We had tailgated. I think the South Lot, if you have never tailgated, the South Lot is fantastic. They get the entire vibe, the experience in. Also was someone was like, oh, hey, I think George McCaskey's over there, so we ran over there, and of course there was George McCaskey kind of trying to soak it in. Took a picture with him, which was pretty cool. I'm gonna try to throw that in here. Mark at the 26-minute McCaskey pick. Cubs update. Oh, geez, we're already 26 minutes in. Cubs signed Alex Bregman. Bregman? That is... We may have overpaid? Is that where I think I'm saying right now, everyone thinking? But you have... I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I kind of... my thoughts on the signings of this Cubs were going to be years that they weren't going to do anything past a year or 2 years because of the cap. So I'm very interested to see that they did place that past that after that 2028 mark. So I'm interested to see what the rest of the league kind of starts. Pop doesn't seem like they've had a ton of free agents that have popped yet. I'm going to be fully honest. I have not been keeping up to date with right now with the Cubs. The Bears have been so exciting. Usually I'm head over heels for Cubs news at this time. But we're fully in football season right now. So I think we will get into future episodes much more about the Cubs, especially all summer. It will be Cubs. This will be a Cubs show. But for right now, good is my official. Cubs are doing something, which I think is overall. They're spending money, which is what I think is the overall good thing that I'm happy about. Whoever it is on, it seems like they are going to open it up, whether it is maybe be for a media member, essentially, to have on the team. Finally, golf. At the 28-minute mark, we finally get to golf. PGA Tour this week kicks off. Century. No, it's not the Century. It was supposed to be the Century last week, but then they stopped that. The PGA Tour kicks off this week. At the Sony Open in Hawaii Country Club out in Honolulu. So, big week. If you're a PGA Tour fan, we are back to it. This is the first official week of the PGA Tour season. So kind of resets a lot of the storylines, kind of resets a lot of the goals for right now. A lot of the things have been hits and giggles for a lot of these guys. And this is where next week at the American Express, a couple weeks at the WM Phoenix. I think most guys are going to have their start by then. And then we're going to be in it, right? We're going to be fully in it. We're going to get our way, getting our way to April. I think everyone's going to be getting their way up ready to Augusta, which is, you cannot get ready to start talking about that. That is beyond excited to start talking about Augusta. And we'll probably do a recap of the 2025 and a watch along of Rory's win again last year, because that was amazing. So we're interested to see who is in this year. I think that with the smaller field this year, I think it's 150, maybe 151, 52. But with the 151 guys, we're interested to see these smaller fields. I'm interested to see who kind of makes it on an off Ryder Cup year. But it's going to be at Medina, so it's going to be in the Chicagoland area. Interested to see which guys kind of make a name for themselves early in the year. I think whoever wins kind of these couple of spring tournaments, it seems like, is kind of a hotbed for someone is a major pick. Maybe for a U.S. Open pick usually, I think. Seems like someone usually... Rory last year had a great start of the year, right? He won at Pebble, and then he won the Players, and then that's where he won his Masters, right? So look for someone's making cuts, someone's showing in form. I would suspect someone that's been busting their ass all off season, right? They're showing up and they're not showing up with the quesadilla stains from Cancun on their thing. They're showing up because they've busted their ass all off season. So we're excited to see who that is and kind of who kind of makes a name for themselves at the start of this year. So the biggest news to talk about today is LIV Golf with Brooks Koepka. I'm smiling because this is a long awaited, and if you know me, I called this years ago. Today it has come out that Brooks Koepka will be rejoining the PGA Tour, which is shocking news if you've been following this very closely. Brooks was a major factor, a major decision for LIV. He's a captain. Was a captain of Smash Golf Club. He was also one of the big bullets to leave with the PGA Tour when kind of the Bryson, the Cam Smith, the Brooks, that first group left. He was a big one, right? You have a multi-major winner that is giving validity to this new tour that has started. You're Brooks that, you're the guy that's saying he only plays majors. He doesn't play usual tournaments, right? He is giving so much volition to this new LIV thing where it's like, wow, I guess you could say LIV, you could argue now, but Brooks was cool, right? Brooks was one of the cool guys. And in a league of guys that wear sunscreen to the excessive amount, he was really cool. And he was even cooler to some of the golf fans that championed him. So when he joins the league, to me it added a layer of volition that was like, oh, maybe I'll give this, a try, a watch, right? You get to see what it. You hate to count it out for at least, you count out the idea, obviously, but hate to count out when someone maybe you do enjoy watching play golf, if they can find something to it. Well, we have to at least hear them out, right? I think that quickly changed when you watch the product, when you kind of watch what it was about. And it seems very much so that LIV and Brooks has came to that same conclusion. Him pulling out of the year this year, right? Everyone was saying, well, hey, you pull off this early this year, you get your 1 year ban, the last time he played was, he played here. So if he plays for his year ban, he could play the Tour Championship. He can be eligible for the Tour playoffs. Not only is Brooks Koepka on the Tour, he's going to play on the Tour playoffs, he's eligible before the first thing of the year. He's back. Just like this. Like a circle, because nothing ever changes, right? We're just in a circle of news. He's back. Just like that, right? I'm not going to be mad about it. I would much rather watch him play golf on the PGA Tour versus LIV, but we have to talk about the absolute 180-degree change that is Brooks Koepka has done between the PGA Tour, LIV, now coming back. And for Brooks and Brooks' team and Brooks' thing, it makes 1,000,000%, right? He's questions of a hurt knee at before, right? Not even questions. He was on full swing saying he's got a hurt knee. And he was on full swing sitting there, and Jenna was like crying because he couldn't hit his putt, right? Like she was describing how much she was going through it. He was going through it, And they were still like, I can't figure it out. So if you're already in there and someone's like, hey, here's $50 million, I don't give a fuck if you shoot 180. 80, right? It makes a ton of sense. So, someone offers me $60, $50 for this podcast, I'm going to say yes, right? So, I can't say I would be a different story than any of these guys, right? I think that's where it's changed. I think a lot of people have, I know myself included, have kind of got off the high horse of the LIV, as time has gone on. It's like, well, someone's going to pay you an extensible amount of money to do less work. Why are you going to say no? Now, there's a lot of other reasons to that, right? And obviously you see what they've done with the brand. But it's hard just for some of these LIV guys to hold their feet that much to the fire based off what went on. And my biggest question is, what does this do next? It's 4:50 on January 12th, right? Brooks is left, right? There's reports that a lot of people are thinking, what does their future look like with the organization? But I am so interested to see what does that organization look like this time next week at this rate, right? Not even next year, right? If we're going to say, what does LIV look like January 12th, 2027, ask yourself that question. I have no idea. Is it a thing? Is it a senior tour? What is LIV in a year? What is LIV in 6 months from now? I know there's smart people working on this, but it's to the point now. Are they going to just fold it into something? Does it become the Corn Ferry Tour? Does it become the senior tour? I think that would probably make the most sense, right? Rather than let's limit the schedule, take some of these guys that are already brand ambassadors for the game and give them a global stage. If I was in charge, but it doesn't seem like they are even talking at this rate. It seems like maybe they're talking after today. It seems like those statements seem pretty close together. But I'd be interested to see what goes on from today. We've always lived in a post-LIV world, we could say, right? When someone says, shout out Riggs Barstool, and then would say, what does it look like? Someone comes in and offers you double the amount of money to do half the work. What does that look like, right? And we've lived in now this, what does that look like world? We've lived in this world for months, right? I think everyone's in the same spot of there's not enough time to watch in the day, and the products are not good enough to watch two competing golf tournaments. I know for me, I love golf. I've so much so the fact that I have a golf podcast. I have a golf show, right? And I can't watch that much golf because there's other things I would rather do with my time. So I would love to see these guys kind of become one, because golf's just not big enough as a sport to support kind of two major organizations like that. And now, if you want to argue, they're already supporting YouTube golf as a whole, right? With what Bryson and the good, of the worlds are doing. Yeah, right? The Bob Does Sports guys are reinvented what it's like to play YouTube golf, right? They're why I'm sitting in front of you right now. So there's obviously a market out there for something, but when the market's out there, but is there the market for two professional golf tours, right? There's maybe a market for people that like golf enough, but is it for two tours? I don't know. So we'll definitely, next time I am recording, I would suspect there'd be more for news to be breaking on that front. But it should be interesting. I think there is going to be clearly something needing to happen with LIV and the PGA Tour before the end of the year. It might be just them eating them as a giant baby shark would do. So last, we're already at 40 minutes, and I don't want to honestly do my first podcast for too long. I was kind of worried, to be fully honest, about not being able to talk for long enough, and now we're getting to the point I'm worried about talking too much. Okay, interesting problem. So job update. So I have spent a decade with the same company, and I don't want to say who it is because I respect them a lot. But it's probably not very. Hopefully, it's not anywhere around here. I should have looked at that. But I spent a decade working with the same company in kind of a marketing, a sales hybrid role, and I have immense respect for a lot of the people I worked with, a lot of people I worked for, and I had a great time, right? I would say, I guess in the beginning, I liked bordering on loving what I did, right? And if you want to say in a weird rom-com, not loving what I did, caused some strife in my life and what I thought about myself as a person, where I wanted to be, it wasn't really there. So it led in a weird way. Maybe it led down to a weird path, right? Because it led to me, unfortunately, having my position eliminated. Now it was pulled in, right? And I guess I'll walk through the whole process. So if you're in the corporate world, you're super aware of what having a meeting on your calendar, right? You're like, hey, it's to whatever 4:00, you get a meeting put on your schedule. And usually you can know what meeting room that's in. How is that meeting gonna go, right? And when you see a meeting on your calendar for the end of the day in a certain room, it's in the back of your head, right? Now maybe that was always a different room. Then you look and there's always multiple rooms open. So I would say you gotta be a little thick-skulled at that point not to know something is coming on, right? They're not usually pulling in somewhere often to tell you how fantastic of a job you're doing, and they're just handing you a barrel full of cash. At least in my experience. If you have had that experience at work, that's awesome. That's probably why you're at work listening to myself talk on a podcast, and I'm on a podcast, because I have not been pulled in a room and handed a barrel full of cash before. Usually when I'm pulled into a conference room, it's to get yelled at for something, or it's just like, he does something wrong, blah, 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 right? So, pulled into it after a conference room, right? You close the door, and I like to think I'm not a smart person, right? I've never thought of myself as a intelligent, book, smart, chemistry, math person, right? I would say where I make my money, make my bones, is relationships, on understanding and reading people. So I would like to say about within 4 or 5 seconds I've seen my boss's face, I got where we were headed pretty quick, right? And clearly, maybe, it's, if I would have got a bunch of money, I would have said, maybe I would have said, who know, you want to be hearing from me. That's part of the story. But I pretty quickly understood what was going on here, right? I pretty quickly got the route that we were the path we're headed down. And then that's where, you're sitting there and someone else opens the door, and that's where you kind of fully know, right? You're there, you kind of see a shadowy figure, a printer, we have kind of frosted glass. You see a shadowy figure appear, and it's kind of like when, you get put on the stockyard, the stock blockades. You're not gonna put up there for anything good, right? Like so, like she's not walking in with a barrel full of cash and handing it to me. So very quickly understood what's going on. So at that time, you have, as a leader, as a man, as just a person, you have a decision that you have to make of how do I want to respond to this difficult time that I'm dealing with. And I would say before my life, I've responded negatively, poorly to that aspect, right? And I've dealt with difficult times, and I've responded like a bitch, right? So it's in a weird way when you are dealing with more difficult times. In a second time, you really look at it, and you know, and you stew and you radiate it on a way that maybe you've handled things in the past, and you learn who you want to be, and the man you want to be, and the man that you are, or the man that your father would want you to be, right? So you have to get your head lopped off, you have to get fired, and you have to handle it with a smile, and you have to handle it with grace. Now that's obviously easier said than done, because in the back of your head, like if someone like me, I had something that I've been passionate about, I know that I've wanted to do, right? So your brain immediately goes to having time to record a podcast. Your brain immediately going time to work on brand collaborations. Your mind goes to having time to film more user generated content, right? But still, that can apply to anybody. You can get fired, and you have two choices in that time. You can be a big bitch, or you can immediately get to fucking work. Not get to work in a weird way, but get to work in a way that, hey, you close this door, that's fine. Close the door. Go ahead. I'll help you. I'm going to open 2 or 3 more on the way out, though. So, fine. Fire me. Fine, let me go. But as I'm going, you're going to give me a lemon. Life gives you lemons. You don't just eat it. You take the lemons, you smash it up, and you go plant a bunch of seeds. You wait for those lemon trees to grow. You take those lemons and you sell them. You sell them, and you raise the price of the lemons higher than you ever thought possible. Then you take the life the lemons gave you, right? That's where I think my brain immediately went to, right? It's like, okay, great. This sucks. But why does it have to suck? Right? Why does it have to suck? It's going to suck if you let it suck. And like most things in life, you get out what you put in, right? If you decide, hey, this is going to suck for 6 months and then I'm going to get over it, guess what's probably going to happen? It's going to suck for 6 months and you're going to get over it. If you decide it's going to suck for 45 seconds and you're going to get over it, by the time you get out of the elevator, guess what? Now, it didn't take that long, right? Now, it happened happened a week ago. I'm going to take, I took my licks for a day, took my licks for a couple days, and sat and licked my wounds. But then I got back to work, right? One of my favorite movies is, it was based on a book called The Martian, right? If you've seen it, it's, the fuck is this? Matt Damon. Yeah. Stuck on Mars and a remote, obviously remote island. Dumbass. He's stuck on Mars. Flight crew thought he's abandoned. And he has this line in this movie that I always think about sometimes. It's like, well, I can sit there, or you can just get to work. And I always think that just get to work. I started Bogey because there was a time in my life that I was at my real job and I wanted to just work. it felt like. And felt like every time you wanted to just work, there was always an excuse of why we couldn't work. There was always an excuse of why things couldn't be done. There were always someone always had an excuse of, well, hey, it can't be done this way, it has to be done that way. Right? And I'm sure everyone always there's a way that they've learned it, and they've learned it to be better. But I want to learn that way to make it better, right? And call that egotistical, call that a lot of things, right? But I want to take those challenges. I want to have people talk about walking the path that sucks. It's like, well, yeah, no, but when it sucks is when you learn, right? When you fail, just like when you get fired. When you fail is when before you get fired the first time. That's the first bad thing that's happened to you. You're not gonna respond great. When bad things have happened to you before, and that's sliding scale, right? Before, I've had a great life. I've had a very fulfilled life to this time as a 33-year-old man. But I've had some poor times, right? Unfortunately, parents have passed away. If you've made it this far on the podcast, you probably know me at this rate. But there's no reason to stay down when those times are. And that's the same choice you can make then, you can make now, or you can make it when your time is presented for that choice being made. Because we all face that choice. It's how we want to respond to that choice. Where was I in my story? So you get let go from somewhere that you've been at for 10 years plus. And it's a scary thing, right? And you're essentially told you are no longer part of this organization as of right now, which makes sense because you don't earn insurance on you right now. If something happens, if you fall and hit your head, you're a guest of the organization, right? So from a practicality standpoint, I understand it. From a legality standpoint, I understand it more. That, right? So, but it is a very weird flip to switch, right? From something you can understand on an intellectual level, and you can stand on multiple levels, but it still is very weird to walk down a certain set of stretch of the road, path, anything as one, and then walk it down 4 minutes later as something else, right? And that's, we want to talk weirdly about time, you've walked the same stretch of time 1,000 times. You never knew that was going to be the last time you walked it, right? You never knew that was going to be the next time you walked it completely different. I think that's the interesting thing about time and about perspective and how we look at things too, right? Is you never know when things are the way you go walk to get a bottle of water is going to be the last time you walk to get a bottle of water. You have to be escorted out the next time, right? So intellectually, I get that, right? And I'm sure to a lot of people maybe it's weird. A lot of people it's probably very normal, right? A lot of it's very a lot of people probably questioning, saying, well, of course, why would that not happen? That's just the way it goes, and that's just the way that's just the way it goes to be fired from any organization. But hopefully it's insightful, and hopefully it's provides some insight if you do get fired on what it's like. And from that kind of right is that you kind of walk, and you can see some of the stuff here I've on my desk is that you kind of collect your shit and you grab it, and if you're lucky enough, they'll give you more than 10 seconds, or they'll let you grab your stuff, and then you'll walk out like every other day, right? And I think that's the most normal thing what being fired is, that walk out. Now you're walking out with maybe boxes, you're walking out with more stuff than you usually do. But that feeling of I am headed away from my desk and I'm headed away to my car was a normal feeling, right? It's a feeling, it's a walk. It's that walk that you have. It's that slightly excited walk on of a weekend, right? It's that same way that it's that same way that you'd have it on a Friday, right? I don't think that's crazy. Is that, you have the excitement of the weekend coming up, right? And for me, I have the excitement of what's next coming up right now. You can obviously be scared, right? You can be scared going to the weekend. You don't know what's going on. But that's where we were, and that's what it was, and that's kind of where we're at right now. I'll go more into it kind of the next podcast a little bit deeper if you guys are interested. Obviously, comment if you want to hear more about it. But I think this is a little bit therapeutic for me to kind of talk through, and kind of as I start this next chapter, kind of get it all on the table. That was kind of who I was. That was who I was. I think that was the corporate, that kind of side of me. I spent a lot of time doing. I think turned me a lot of lessons. Lots of lessons I'll never forget. Lots of lessons I'll learn. But I hope to move in a new way, I hope to do something different in my next chapter. I think I spent chapter 1 having a lot of fun. I know what I wanted to, and I did what I wanted to do, right? There was no one, I didn't say I was forced to do this. But I would say in chapter 2, I'm going to move into what I have not maybe always thought I wanted to do, but maybe some dreams that I thought I had the ability to do. I'm just, at this rate, I actually have no idea what I'm saying. It's almost been an hour. At this rate, I'm hoping, just follow along. Who the fuck knows what I'm saying? If it's been this long, if you made it to this point, just fucking follow it. Click the goddamn buttons. And it says follow buttons. It's going to say whatever buttons. If you made it to this point, click all those buttons. And we'll be around for episode 2. Thank you for watching. It's Monday, January 12th. Thanks for watching. What the fuck was it? If I'm not golfing, oh. Come on, you gotta do this. Can't end the podcast until you do it. Thanks for watching. Come back next time. If you don't, I'll be golfing anyways.